Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher. And in this video, I would like to discuss an article written by somebody named Anthony J. Williams, a gay black man who seems to think that women have a good reason to hate men and that all men are evil. Let's see what he has to say in this crap piece, shall we? Misandry, or the hatred of men, is completely understandable. In fact, I wouldn't blame women for never wanting to interact with any man because many of the fact that so many of us are trash. What? Okay, so that made no sense. So automatically we know he can't write. I wouldn't blame women for never wanting to interact with any man because the fact is that many of us are trash. I just corrected it for him because, he can't write. Oh, many men are trash. Really? He seems to like his own sex a lot. He's a gay guy. He's a black gay guy. So my guess he's been taunted, bullied, abused a lot, so he's come to hate his own sex. I see. Like, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like it makes sense, doesn't it, brother? Yeah, you can't even write without speaking in slang. And for the record, I'm a queer man. Does that mean you're gay? I don't know, because people keep using this LBGTQIV bullshit. I don't even, maybe queer means something else now. Who has contributed to the reason why women might just hate us. Really? What did you do to a woman? Tell me what you did to a woman. Oh, you didn't do anything. You just are a man, so automatically you deserve hate. I see. Could you be any more irrational? Believe it or not, he could be. Let's continue. Why would you blame all men for something some men did? Men didn't do anything, by the way. This is all bullshit. Men never did anything to women except take care of them and give them a good life. This whole not all men has got to stop. Yeah, it's got to stop. It's all men. All men are fucking evil bastards. They all need to burn in hell. Mwah! If the shoe don't fit, then quietly go about your daily business and don't wear it. But chances are that it fits, brother. I just threw the brother in there because this guy's way of talking is sort of in a racialized tone. Let's start at the beginning. Patriarchy, which doesn't exist, and male privilege 101. All of the world, even where matriarchal societies reign supreme, men still have a major and often negative impact on women's lives. So if it's a matriarchal society, women are doing a great job, and men are trying to fuck it up by trying to impose patriarchy or trying to control women, even though the women are the ones in charge and they're oppressing the men. But that's okay. I see. Could you be any more biased against men than you already are, buddy? I doubt you could. Societies that banish men but are part of a so-called third world country still face the consequences of the men who make decisions for imperial countries such as the United States of America. Now we get to colonialism, one of the loved tropes that the left likes to trot out to make the white Western man feel guilty about how he has somehow oppressed poor, pathetic, stupid people in third world countries. Yes, we stole all their wealth, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We went in, we fucked up their countries, yeah. A woman need not be near a man to suffer for because of his failings. Yeah, because as men, we generate this gigantic aura of destruction. It's just gigantic aura, and women miles away, they step into this aura, and automatically their lives go to shit. It's all our fault. Okay, so whether individual men choose to be nice guy or not, matters, does matter. This guy's writing sucks. But patriarchy is much bigger than just interpersonal relationships. Of course, everything is a collective. We can't deal with things on an interpersonal individual level. Everything has to be a collective. That way we can collectively shame everyone and make everyone in a group guilty instead of just deal with individual cases, which would of course make more sense, but then we couldn't control everybody and manipulate them. I see. We assume that men are more intelligent, much stronger, more efficient, and generally better than women. We assume? Pal, what planet are you living on? There's no assumption here. I mean, are you like one of these Anita Sarkeesian groupies that's like a fucking zombie and just parrots everything she says? You think it's an assumption? You think it's an assumption that men are stronger and more intelligent? Really? Why don't you go somewhere with a woman and tell her to pick up a 50-pound barbell? Go to a gym and say, pick that up. She can't pick it up, you pick it up. Oh, geez, guess what? I'm stronger. Not an assumption, pal. And generally better than women. Well, it depends on how you judge better because, if I look at things in the terms of, oh, well, she gives birth to babies better than me. Yeah, because I can't have babies. Oh, superior to me. No. That's just the one thing she can do that I can't do. But I shot her full of that semen that allowed her to have that baby. And she couldn't have that baby without me. So I am just as necessary for having that baby and creating life as she is. So cut that bullshit out. So let's look objectively at how men and women are judged. Well, we have to look at how they interact with the world around them and how well they do or don't do. And in every objective way, we are better. We're stronger, we're smarter, we're more efficient, we have more stamina. I mean, come on. You're going to say that it's some kind of assumption that men are stronger and more intelligent? If you think that's an assumption, you're dumber than I thought. In defense of masculinities, what? Masculinities? It's not a plural. What is he talking about, masculine? There's just masculinity. There's no plural for masculine. What is he talking about? He's made up a word. What is it with these leftists that they just think they can make up words? I want to create a new word, so I'm just going to create a new word, or I'm going to change the definition of an old word. Yeah, sure, why not? Because words don't have meaning. They just mean what I want them to mean, and everything is relative, and everything is open to interpretation because I am a leftist and I believe in negative philosophy. I see. Because there are several, not just one, masculinities. What the hell is he talking about? And men who embody any form of masculinities. You mean forms? You can't use a singular with a plural. What are you talking about? Form of masculinities. This guy's uneducated, and yet he's trying to sound like he's intelligent with these stupid arguments that are nothing more than talking points. Our behavior is a result of our civilization. Socialization, excuse me. Really? In part... culture has something to do with how we act and interact with the world, but it's not the only deciding factor. There is biology as well. You do know that, don't you? No, I don't know that. It's all socialized. It's all socialized, brother. It's all socialized. Okay. This does not mean that we are not at fault. Oh, of course not. Of course, we have to be at fault. Of course, women are not at fault because they're socialized to steal from us. But we're at fault for some kind of mysterious ghost patriarchy that exists. I see. We are at fault. Women are never at fault because I'm a gay man and I love women, but goddamn it, I hate men because they victimize me my whole goddamn life and used to beat me up and haze me for being obviously gay. Goddamn them. We continue to use our manhood to benefit ourselves, often stepping on women to get there. When are we stepping on women? Please tell me when men are stepping on women. Give me an exact instance. Name me a specific instance where this happened. Oh, you can't do that because you're a leftist and you're an adherent of the Frankfurt School and you believe in critical theory and you just like to advance these non-arguments where you say people do something in a very general way, but you don't give a specific argument, because if you gave a specific argument, I could tear you into an asshole and rip your argument apart. That's a typical leftist tactic. Everything I'm typing today was most likely influenced by the teachings of a woman in my life. Yes, because men are so stupid, and they're so patriarchal, and they're so evil, and they don't have the wisdom, and the love, and the perceptions, and the empathy of a woman, because women are the perfect race, and men are just scum. We feel entitled to the land, promotions, women's bodies. Okay. He needs to stop right there. When do we feel entitled to the land? I mean, it sounds like this guy's talking about 17th, 18th, 19th century when men inherited. That would be it. That was the only benefit that men used to have. They don't have that benefit anymore. We felt entitled. It should be felt, past tense, because men no longer have even that benefit. Like, if the father died, like the oldest son would get the property, and even if the daughter was older, the son would still inherit the property. So what? Then she would get married, and her husband would take care of her forever. All right? That was so as to make sure she got married and continued to procreate and continued the race, because if she got the property, she might not get married. And then no babies are born. So that being the case back then was for self-preservation. It was so that the race would continue. It wasn't about disenfranchising women so much as it was putting the property into the hands of the people. That's another aspect, by the way. Putting it into the hands of the people that would do the most good with it. Men are going to develop land, develop resources better than women because we are smarter and we are stronger. There's no assumption there. Women's bodies and more, because we are taught from a young age that the world is... No, we're not taught that. Men are not taught that. We're taught all this egalitarian equality bullshit that we're all the same when we're not the same. And you're saying we're all the same, but it's all socialized. I see. But we're still to blame, which would imply that it's biological. But you essentially disagree with that fact. Yeah, you contradict yourself a lot, pal. Even men who identify or present as feminine like you still receive many of the benefits of manhood, so you are still an evil man. But you're virtue signaling to all those women that you're one of the good men, even while simultaneously under the threat of violence. That's you. So you're very, very biased toward men. You are under the threat of violence. So you used to get beat up when you were younger for being gay. Poor you. So what? So what? Lots of people were bullied. That doesn't mean that you indict a whole group of people and call them all evil. Patriarchy means that men have male privilege. I know what patriarchy means, pal, and patriarchy doesn't exist. Patriarchy would imply that men somehow have some kind of benefit that disenfranchises women while at the same time giving them something that women don't have. So tell me something that men have that women don't have that benefits them and at the same time disenfranchises women. Do 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 do. Oh yeah, I had enough time to think. Yeah, I have. I can't think of anything. I can think of many things that women have over men, but I can't think of any benefit that a man has, any privilege that a man has that disenfranchises women, or any privilege that a man even has that a woman doesn't have. But I can think of a lot of privileges that women have that men don't have. Let's look at some examples. So, men, if there's a war, guess what? We're going. They ain't. They can choose to go. They have that option, but they don't have to. Divorce? No fault divorce. She can cheat on him, fuck the whole neighborhood except him, and then leave him, take his house, take half his money, get alimony forever, get child support. She gets the kids. 98% of alimony being paid is still being paid by men. So in terms of family, men have no privilege whatsoever, and women have lots of privileges and benefits than disenfranchised men. Okay, so in family, man's a loser. All right, no benefits. Well, let's look at education. So about 60 years ago, the education system was changed, and the methodology for teaching was changed so that women would be taught better and that they would score better and that they would do better overall. But the system was so overhauled and so changed to benefit women that it no longer benefited men. And since, the different sexes learn differently, but the egalitarian bullshit teaches that there's no differences between men and women, no biological differences whatsoever, they're equal, and any differences are simply sociological. But of course, there's some kind of special method. There's methods that women benefit from in forms of teaching, but men don't. And men are getting dumber and dumber and dumber, and women are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. 65% of people getting into university are women, 35% men. Jeez. So there's no differences in the genders except socialization, and yet somehow women are benefiting from methods that favor women, which would have to be biological because it was sociological. If it was socialized, then it wouldn't. So there are inbuilt differences, and men are not in any way benefiting in education. They are suffering. All you have to do is do any research on this. Just use Google. Men in the Western world, routinely, at all ages, are doing worse than women in education. So, education, men are losers. They're not benefiting in any way, shape, or form. Women are essentially getting far more privileges than men, and they're being enfranchised at the expense of men who are being disenfranchised. So, men don't benefit from education. So, okay, we've looked at education. We've looked at family. Men have no privileges. Women have all the privilege. Okay, well, let's look at work. Let's look at work. A woman applying for a job is twice as likely to get the job if she has the same experience and education as a man. Twice as likely. Women are now in 147 of 150 of America's largest cities actually making more money than men. Women are now making more money than men. So in the workplace, women are more privileged and doing better as well because of affirmative action programs. I wonder, so can somebody tell me where men are benefiting? You see, because patriarchy or matriarchy, one or the other means that one sex or the other sex is benefiting overwhelmingly more. I mean, if it were patriarchy, wouldn't you think that the men, because they were running things, would actually, design things so that they benefited? They wouldn't design the system to essentially make it so they lost. Who designs a system where they're running it and then they are the losers? I've never heard of such a stupid thing. Yet this writer wants us to believe that there's a patriarchy going on, but I just named you every single way and every aspect of society and culture that we have in interacting with our fellow human beings and the objective reality that we live in, how men in no way benefit, but women have all of the privileges and men get none of the benefits compared to a woman. I mean, she's overwhelmingly more privileged than we are, essentially. She gets the jobs. She makes more money. She gets a better education. She's more likely to get into university. She benefits in every way, shape, and form from the family. What the hell? Where's the patriarchy? Patriarchy would imply there was an inequality, where he's making more, where he gets the kids, right? Where he gets money from her. He would be getting alimony. He would be getting child support. She would be going to war. He'd be sitting home watching Oprah. She'd be the one going to the coal mine, getting black lung and dying at the age of 30. I'm failing to see the privileges a man has. Male privilege allows us men, I guess is what he's saying, to dictate laws that restrict access to reproductive health. Men do not dictate the laws. Men might be the politicians in the majority of cases, but they're put there by who? Women. Women are the majority of voters. Women are 54% of the population. Men are 46%. The politician will do what the woman wants him to do because he wants to keep his job, because he in no way could actually do a real job. If he was in the private sector, he would be eaten by wolves. So he has to keep that political job. He has to stay a politician. He will do anything to do so. So he pushes the agenda of the people that put him in office and keep him in office. And who is that? I mean, this guy knows. He knows who to pander to. He knows who his voters are. He knows what their views and wants are. He's got pollsters. He's got people going out around the area that are his voters, in the area that he represents. Okay, he knows what the women want. He knows the age groups. He knows the issues that they care about. He knows what neighborhoods are primarily minority. He knows what neighborhoods are primarily women and family. And then he knows what the makeup is sex-wise, how many are men, how many are women. I mean, these politicians, they make their decisions in large part based on who their voters are, who makes up their precinct, and who are the loudest voices, who are the people out there protesting most and making the most clamor. Women! And they're the majority of voters, be them minorities or white women. That's whose laws they push. That's whose views they push in making the law. Yeah, they're men, but they're not pushing their own agendas. They want to keep their job. They're not going to represent men at the expense of their job. They do what the women want them to do. Male privilege gives us the false idea that we are in fact better than women. And no false idea. In every objective way, we are better. All you need to do is look at the world. All you need to do is look at the world. Look around you. Who built it? Who built it? Why don't you go online and see how many patents were filed by women and how many were filed by men? 95% or more were filed by men. Men are the overwhelming majority of people inventing things, building things. Is Steve Jobs, was he a woman? Oh, no, he was a man, hence the name Steve. I fail to see the women who are doing anything at all that impresses me. They're not. They're just not. It's all men. Of course. That being the case, we should have the privilege, but we don't. And as for this nonsense about access to reproductive health, what does that mean? Birth control? I go and buy my own birth control. I don't need anybody else to buy my own birth control. But we all know that women are the cheapest creatures on earth. So they want everybody else to pay, meaning men. Of course, they want men to pay. Even if they're gigantic feminists, they always want somebody else to pay, especially when they're feminists because they're a leftist. Yeah, I don't want somebody putting a gun to my head and taking money out of my wallet to pay for your abortion, your friggin' birth control. You can't pay for them things yourself. You can't make better decisions and not get pregnant accidentally. You can't do that. And then when you make a mistake, I have to pay for it. Or I'm sexist. Male privilege gives us the false idea that we are in fact better than women. Male privilege means that people of all genders are more likely to listen to us. Really? As a white man, there ain't nobody listening to me. You know, I've always used this little saying to tell who's in charge. If you want to know who's running a place, look at who you can't talk about. It's all right, perfectly okay to call white men scum, to talk about male privilege, to shout white men down, to call them all sorts of names. You can say whatever you want about white people. They're the last group that it's okay to be racist toward. But as a white man, you can't talk about anybody else. You say anything about women, you're going to be shouted down. Likely have a brick thrown at your head. So honestly, men are not the ones in charge. That's obvious to me. Male privilege perpetuates rape culture on college campuses and all over the world. Rape culture. You know, it's very interesting. When you're a leftist, you essentially, half your job is just changing the meanings of words. Yeah, you know, it's interesting how you can get people to believe that there's a rape culture by taking the word rape and then changing the meaning and throwing in all these other things that aren't rape and making them rape. Yeah, it's amazing you can convince people that there's some kind of rape culture once you make everything from grabbing a woman's ass to bumping into her to making some kind of lewd comment into some kind of rape or sexual assault. Geez, if you do that, you make all that shit some kind of sexual assault or rape. Yeah, you can convince people there's a rape culture. Imagine that. Words have meaning, but when you're a leftist, the words mean whatever the hell you want them to mean. All the male privilege, and the male privilege we are the most familiar with is how our assumed superiority earns us more income than women. Oh no, it's not the wage gap again, you fool. Okay, let me explain the difference between wages and earnings, all right? So wages are what you're paid, earnings are what you make. So what he's saying is that women are paid less than men because they're women. No, that's a lie. It's illegal. You do that, you're going to be fined big time. It doesn't happen. What there is there's an earning gap. He doesn't use the word earning because he wants to lie or he's too stupid. This is just a talking point he's been fed. So let me explain it to you. Women earn less than men on average, but not because they're paid less in wages. It's because they make different life choices. It's really that simple. Women will drop out of the workforce to have kids, number one. They don't work as many hours as men. Men are more likely to work overtime. Men are more likely to ask for raises, ask for promotions. Women are less likely to do so. Women tend to be more passive. They tend to be not as assertive as men. And your boss, is he really going to give you a raise if he doesn't have to? I mean, unless it's in your contract and you get like an annual set amount every year. Unless that's the case, he's not going to give you a raise just because you do a good job. You're going to actually have to go to him and say, hey, I'm doing real good. I want a raise. And he'll give you a raise in proportion with how productive you are. It just so happens that men work harder. They put in more hours. They're much more dedicated and tend to be more loyal. They'll work every day, 5 days a week, possibly even weekends, overtime until they die. But women take off. You know, it's amazing to me. And of course, if you say this to this guy, I mean, and women want to have a more balanced life. They want to have a more balanced life. They don't want to spend all their time working. They want to be with their family. They want to be with their kids. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But this guy would say, oh, well, that's not fair. She took off 10 years to raise a family. Now she should be able to come back and make as much money as the guy that stayed in the company for 10 years and got 3 promotions. And she should be the same place he is because, you know, it's not her fault she had to have a baby. Well, actually it is because she made a choice, and choices have consequences, positive, negative choices, however you want to view them. But in every aspect of our life, choices have consequences. So if you want to have kids, it's going to negatively impact your career. That's just life. And as a woman, you don't get to get special treatment and make as much money as you would if you had stayed at that job for that 10 years. That guy's been there 20 years. You worked there for 10 years. Then you quit for 10 years, had a baby, and you want to go back and you want to make as much money as he's making. Does that sound fair? Does that sound morally right? He has in fact, he has spent 10 years developing his skills. He has spent 10 years evolving, becoming better at what he does. He has brought more value to the marketplace. He's brought more value to that company. He's making more because he brings more to the table. You think it's fair. You can just go back. You bring the same amount. You bring less value, in fact, because you haven't worked in 10 friggin' years. And you're older, too. And you expect to come back and you should be paid exactly what he's making. You know what that sounds like to me? Privilege. Amazing. Women think they should get privileges that men don't get. Imagine that. And the male privilege we are most familiar with is our assumed superiority earns us more income than any woman. No. The fact that we work more, that we don't take off to have kids, that we work lots of overtime, that we don't give a shit about a balanced life, that we make different life choices, and we tend to choose also all these wage bullshit. All this is you take all the overall earnings of men and you take all the overall earnings of women and you compare them. That's where these bullshit numbers come from, this 76, 77 cents on the dollar bullshit. And it's nonsense because women, in addition to everything I just said, also tend to choose different jobs. They tend to choose jobs that is more in line with the things they enjoy doing. Because yes, women and men are biologically different, and hence they have different things they enjoy doing. So for example, women will go more into jobs like nursing and social sciences, psychology, teaching, social, work and stuff like that. All those jobs don't pay very well. Those jobs don't pay very well. You want to be a teacher, a nurse? Get the fuck out of here. You're not going to make that much money. So, duh, yeah, they make less. So for all those reasons they make less, it has nothing to do with anybody being biased or sexist toward women. Now let's look at these bogus numbers that he's represented to essentially support his argument, but he gives no correlating facts. Asian women had an earning ratio of 90% in comparison to white men. Yeah, the women. Yeah, but notice they make more than the white women. So the next one says white women had an earning ratio of 70%. Why is that? Can you tell me? Why are Asian women, who are women, making almost as much as the men? Could it be that Asians work harder? That they have a proclivity for being hard workers, and because of their culture and such, that they're very, very hard workers, that even though Asian women take time off from the workforce to be mothers, it only affects them 10%, while white women are affected 24%. In regards to their wages. Why is that? Why do Asian women tend to be more successful to take jobs that pay more money? Could it be that they're more ambitious? Could it be that they're smarter? And this is actually true. Asians tend to have IQs on average of 100 to 103, as opposed to white Americans and their average IQ of 100. As I said before, IQ has a correlating effect on earnings. So, how do they explain that? Mr. Black Gay Writer, how do you explain that Asian women are making more than white women in a Western country? How can you explain that? Could it be biological differences between Asians and white women? Could it be the fact that white women are the most entitled creatures on earth, and they feel like everything should just be handed to them, and life is too easy for them, so they're not as used to dealing with hardship and difficulty, and they can't deal with stress as well, and so they're not as good at working long hours, and they're not conditioned by their culture to do so and to sacrifice and such, while Asians are, Asian women don't seem to be held back nearly as much as the white women. Of course, he's trying to make it look like white men are somehow evil. What a stupid, stupid idea. He's failing to miss the obvious, which are facts, is that there are differences between races and there are differences between cultures, and there is nothing holding women back except themselves and their own choices. Black women had an earning ratio of 62% in comparison to white men. Why are you comparing them to white men? Why don't you compare these black women to Asian women? Huh? Why don't you compare these black women to Japanese women? Well, because you have to use the yardstick of the white male. Because that's the one that we have to disenfranchise. That's who runs America. We're leftists. We're socialists. We've been indoctrinated to believe this because the global elites want to destroy America. They want to destroy the culture. And white people are still the majority. And they're essentially, in your mind, still running things. So you have to destroy them. You have this disdain for white American culture. So we have to destroy all that stuff. And so the white American male is the target. If it was black people that ran the country, it would be black men that they would label as evil. This is all just cultural deconstructivism. Goes on to say Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women, blah, blah, blah. If you look at Hawaii, the economy there is not that great. It's mostly focused around tourism and such. There's not a ton of jobs there unless you're working for the federal government as a post office worker or some shit. American Indian and Alaskan Natives had an earning ratio of 58%. Quite frankly, Native Americans, they've had a raw deal for a long time. They don't get very good education. They live on those crappy reservations. They don't get a lot of help from the government. Their educational system is garbage. Not to mention the fact that there's a racial element to their IQ, which is not super. Same with the Hispanic and Latino. People are not aware of this, but blacks, for example, American blacks on average have a 90 IQ. Well, look at the difference between the earnings of a black woman and a white woman. So, are white women oppressing black women? Oh no, white men are oppressing everybody. Yeah. Okay, but white women aren't oppressing anybody? Why? How is that? So it's white men, but not white women. How does that work exactly? Aren't white women just as evil? Oh, no, because patriarchy. Oh, but I just disproved patriarchy. I just pointed out very clearly, you can't find one way in which men are privileged over women. So I totally disproved that. So why are white women not oppressors as well? Yeah, once you start to think about these things, they actually fall apart. But, of course, your typical leftist doesn't think about anything. They just have the little talking points that they parrot out. And Hispanics, on average, have, meaning Mexicans, for example, Mexicans have, on average, an 80 to 82 IQ. No big surprise that their earning ratio is 54%. And it doesn't say whether or not they're legal or illegal. You can pretty much assume that they have a poor or no education, very few skills. Big surprise they're making so much less money. So women, in comparison to men, earn 54 to 90 cents on the dollar. And where's your correlating evidence to say it's because of white men? Where's your evidence? You actually have no evidence whatsoever. You're just pointing out about a bunch of random facts, and then you're making a correlation based on nothing. Well, I can say it's the fault of blackberry pie. Now, you can say to me, why are white women earning less money? Blackberry pie. Oh, it doesn't make any sense. Well, neither does your argument. You have no correlating evidence of any kind. You're just seeing a number, and you're making a leap of an assumption. You're making a leap that's an assumption based on no correlation. I mean, you could jump anywhere. If you can jump anywhere because you have no correlations of any kind to prove your argument, you're not making any correlating arguments, I could do the same. I could just jump to pie. Hispanic and Latino women are earning 54% in comparison to white men. It's the fault of pie. It's the fault of blackberry pie. My argument has just as much validity as yours because you have no correlating arguments of any kind. Well, there are a lot of toxic women. Yes, of course, toxic humans come in all sides. You mean all sizes? This guy can't write. Men can be sexually assaulted, physically abused, and verbally taunted. This is all true, and still men benefit from societies forcefully built by men. What does that mean? You mean men wanted to build everything? They were out there in the 12th, 13th century with a hammer and hammering away at rocks and working as stonemasons and breaking their backs because they wanted to? And who built all of society anyway? Are you telling me that if men hadn't been there, women would have built everything? Really? We'd be living in grass huts. We'd be living in mud huts. What are you talking about? Women have typically been excluded. How were they excluded? Tell me how they were excluded. You can't just say they were excluded without telling me how. Otherwise, you don't have an argument. Saying women have been excluded is not an argument. You're positing a theory, a belief. You have to give me an argument to prove, at least in some way using logic and reason, that argument has merit. But you can't do that because you can't think for yourself. This is just stuff you were taught in your gender studies class, queer boy. As we see with the founding fathers of the United States. Oh, so there were no... Look, pal, women back in the 18th century, they had to raise the kids, okay? We didn't have daycare centers, dude, all right? They had to be at home. And by the way, men are smarter. They're better leaders. Of course, America's always been a meritocracy. The world's always been a meritocracy. Did you ever stop and think that men have essentially been the leaders of the world throughout human history because that's what they're best at doing? Did you ever stop to think that men got the positions they did in society and that they were the leaders and the entrepreneurs because that's what they're best at? Oh, no, it can't be merit. It must be sexism because there's no difference between the sexes. It's all social. What an idiot. And this is doubled and quadrupled for women of color. Yeah, okay. Most black people were slaves. There weren't a lot of free blacks running around the North, dude. And they had to stay home and take care of the kids too because the man was better and more productive at going out there and making a living. We didn't have any mechanization back then, pal. It was all hard labor. Are you telling me that women are as strong as men, have as much endurance as a man, and that she should have been out in the fields swinging the hoe while he's inside breastfeeding? Oh, wait! Only the woman can do that. Yet again, I prove my point and disprove yours. Women, and particularly women who present themselves in a feminine manner, do not have the benefit of male privilege. And yet, you have given no examples of male privilege, and I totally blew you out of the water on that. Even when men claim that a woman benefits from a masculine presentation or a queer identity, she is still a woman And what does that mean, queer identity? So she acts more masculine. So are you not gay, pal? You're just like more feminine. I don't understand all these new bullshit terms that these stupid kids are using. She is still a woman and therefore seen as less than. Women cannot escape patriarchy. There is no patriarchy, pal. There's never been a patriarchy. Never, ever. Not ever. Men went out to work, killed themselves. Women stayed at home, breastfed the babies, okay? She was enslaved to him. She needed his support. He was enslaved to her. He needed her to take care of him, the household, the kids. They took care of each other. They both benefited. There was quid pro quo. There was not one benefiting and the other is getting taken advantage of, which is what oppression is. You need to learn what words mean. A recent example is Serena Williams. Oh, my God. One of the world's greatest athletes. No, she's one of the world's greatest female athletes. In terms of greatest athletes, no, she's not even close. Williams has been referred to as too masculine. She looks like a man. So what? There was once a debate over whether a horse should win Sports Person of the Year over her. She shouldn't win because in no way, hell, the worst male tennis player who's still ranked internationally would beat her. You know, they did it. They did this with the female soccer team. For example, there was the best female soccer team in the world played like a high school, the like national champion high school team for men. A bunch of 16, 17-year-old boys essentially played a bunch of professional female soccer players, and they killed them. So what is this talk about best sportsman? No, best female sportsman. I'm getting tired of erasing all categories, and now we have to rate both women and women as the same. And we have to displace a man who's better than a woman, but we have to put the woman in because of inclusiveness. Meanwhile, you just fucking knocked the guy down 12 pegs who was better than her. And just today, she was referred to as Drake and Common's ex, whatever that means, as if the only reason that she should care about a world-renowned tennis player is because she once dated two men. What may seem trivial to some is not actually trivial. Women cannot escape patriarchy, so let's play a game. Dude, you're seeing patriarchy everywhere you go. You're essentially suffering from confirmation bias, and you're paranoid to boot, so you've been taught the patriarchy is everywhere, so you go out in the world looking for patriarchy, so of course you see it reflected in everything you look at, even though it doesn't exist. Imagine living in a world where all the power is decided by men. Really? If power is decided by men, why are we fucked? Why are we getting the short end of the stick? If power was decided by men, wouldn't men design a system to favor and benefit them? And didn't I name education, family, work, society? We benefit zero. Women have all the privileges. Who would do that? What dumb fucker would design a system which they are essentially excluded from and disenfranchised in? You wouldn't do it. All of it. In this world, a woman can say, nah, forget all y'all, and still receive death and rape threats. You know, a lot of these leftists like to say they're threatened with death and rape, but it ends up being that all these threats were bullshit, or the vast majority, and they were just claiming to have been threatened and with rape and death so that they could get virtue signal and get victimhood points, not just online. Ooh, somebody threatened you online. If I had to name all the people that have threatened me, my God. You precious snowflake, you get over it. But in person and across the world, multiple women have been shot just for saying no to a man. So what? Multiple men have been shot, too, for saying no to a mugger. What's your point? Now you're conflating that with patriarchy? What the hell does that have to do with a patriarchy that doesn't exist? Young women are persecuted for defending themselves and their families from the abuse of men. Where? Give me an example. Give me an example. Tell me one example. You're just saying these grand accusations. You're making these accusations, but you're not saying what happened. I could say, aliens are attacking the Earth all the time. Aliens are attacking the Earth, and they're fucking up our ozone layer, and they're constantly attacking us, and they're trying to destroy us. Okay, could you name me one example? No, I don't have to name you an example, because you should just assume what I say is correct, because I'm talking about victimization of women, and victimization of women is automatically to be believed, and you can never question me. Never question me. I'm a leftist snowflake. You cannot question me. The violence women face is not always physical, but what? Well, that's what violence is, pal. Violence isn't words or thoughts, it's physical action. But of course you're a pressure snowflake and you equate physical action with thoughts. But the threat always exists somewhere. Yes, and guess what? Threats exist everywhere. If I go outside and I don't look both ways, I'm going to get hit by a fucking car and turned into a fucking pancake. Threats exist everywhere. That's right. What's your point? That there's somehow existing more for women? Give me a fucking break, you pansy you. But surely women have control within their own bodies, homes, workplaces, neighborhoods, cities, and workplaces, right? Of course, well, first of all, they don't have control of their workplace unless they're the boss. So scratch that fucker off. Second, their home. If it is their home and they don't live with somebody, yeah. If they share it with someone else, ideally, both people should have power. But of course, in all circumstances, almost all circumstances, the woman is the one in control, of course. That's why they say happy wife, happy life. And of course, their own bodies, yeah, they should have control of that. So what? Of course, he goes on to say, nah. Even when women fight against the world to maintain steady control of their lives, why are they fighting against the world? To try and make it serve them even more so they can be even more privileged than they already are, something I've already proven that they are privileged and men are not. It's a matriarchy, not a patriarchy. This is a typical leftist ploy to say the exact opposite of what is actually happening in reality so as to attack the person that you want to disenfranchise even further and grab even more power. Men pop up. Yeah, we just pop up. We're just there. We're so inconvenient. Us existing is just such a problem. I just wish we would all die already and let women, the perfect creatures, run the world. And then, of course, how would they procreate without men? They keep a few slaves underground as just the sperm monkeys. I see. Yeah, we don't stop. Even if women move to remote locations, we legislators, what do you mean we legislators? You're not a legislator. You're just some dude who's a crappy writer, essentially is pushing propagandist nonsense about false patriarchies and ghost institutional racism and other imaginary bullshit and fantasy unicorns that don't exist. Decision makers, please. The women are the decision makers. The people that vote are the decision makers. The people put in the government are there to handle the day-to-day bureaucracy of things that you can't have 330 million people doing. You need to put somebody in that job, and they're there to represent the interest of the voters. And the voter is the one who essentially, if you have a group, if you've now learned to manipulate whole groups and get whole groups to self-identify with a particular group, then you can get that group to vote for the things you want by associating certain, shall I say, issues with that particular gender, group, collective, and then you can get what you want passed by essentially indoctrinating women and minorities to believe this shit, and then they vote for the person who pushes these agendas. And then, of course, the voter is going to have the things she wants, and he's going to see that. He's going to pander to her. He's going to do what she wants. And what she wants falls directly in line with what leftists want, because women are perfect leftists. They are perfect collectivists. Legitimizing violence against women. Who's legitimizing violence against women? Nobody is legitimizing violence against women. Give me an example. Again, you just cast these spurious examples with no correlating evidence of any kind, no specific examples given. You just make these accusations, typical leftist, typical Frankfurt School critical theory bullshit. And on top of the violation of personal space, wherever they go. What the hell are you talking about, violation of personal space? You mean walking around on the streets and like going out in the world? Dude, there's a lot of fucking people in the world. Like 7.5 billion now. How much personal space you think they have in New York City on a fucking subway? Come on. I mean, what are we going to give each woman her own individual fucking car? We're going to give each of them each little individual cabin. There's only like 2,000-3,000 people need to take each fucking train. But, oh, yeah, we're just going to give all the women their own individual little cabins. And then we're going to cram everybody else into like one car like they do in fucking Japan. Where you got people trying to fucking cram themselves in so much to these fucking trains. Sometimes their bag gets caught out the fucking door because their arm is stuck, and then their bag gets stuck, and their bag is outside the fucking train, and it gets sucked out away by the rush of air, and they've lost all their fucking belongings. Yeah, that sounds real fair. And on top of the violation of personal space wherever they go, yeah, because women, they should have personal space that men shouldn't have. There should be 3 feet around every woman. They should have this unbreachable aura that we all are aware of because they're such special, wonderful creatures and they're superior to everybody else. So they should deserve this personal space that nobody else has a right to. You meaning men. They may also come from a long line of ain't shit daddies. What? What is he even talking about? I got to read the sentence again because I'm trying to find some context here to this comment that just came out of nowhere. And on top of the violation of personal space wherever they go, they have also come from a long line of ain't shit daddies. I guess he's implying that they are shit daddies, uncles, cousins, and partners. Add peeping toms, pervy bosses, and inappropriate hollering at the gas station. That's, a lot. Yeah, women are just such victims. They go through such hardship in life. Yeah, they had fathers. Oh, no. And they had uncles. Oh, my God, there were men in their lives. Jesus Christ, no wonder they hate men because men are so fucking horrible. I'm a guy and I hate myself. And I'm a gay guy or a queer guy, whatever the hell I am. I don't know what I am. But I hate other men because my whole life I've been made to feel miserable by men. So men must be fucking horrible. And I'd shoot myself in the head if I had the fucking courage because I hate myself so much. I want to die. And she had daddies and uncles and cousins and partners. And all of them were men. No wonder she hates men because all men are fucking evil, of course. And they're all peeping toms and pervy bosses. And they're inappropriate hollerers that are doing cat calls at the gas station too. Wow, the world is just horrible. The world we imagine, that's the world we all inhabit today. So yeah, I think more men need to understand why women would never want to interact with any man, whether that's based in personal vendetta or patriarchy. And this thing just goes on, and I'm not going to read anymore because I've already had enough of this guy's nonsense. So this is your typical millennial. This guy is young, he's stupid, and he's a leftist, and he's clearly been indoctrinated into this ridiculous groupthink that teaches all this nonsense. I just debunked it, and you can look up everything I've said on Google to verify my information if you don't know all this already and haven't already educated yourself on all this nonsense. I mean, it's ridiculous that he believes the things he does, but clearly he's been indoctrinated. And this is what many millennials are like, which explains why they're sleeping on their parents' couch and in their parents' basement and worshiping Bernie Sanders and Hugo Chavez and all these other socialist idiots. So I digress. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.